Alright, it's video 2 of the night, man, and today I'm going to be giving you guys the sad truth about Famous Dex. Now, why am I talking about Famous Dex? Well, here's the reality, man. There's been a Say Cheese interview of Famous Dex that came out maybe a week ago, right? And Famous Dex was struggling with drugs so bad in the interview that a lot of people said, oh, it shouldn't have came out. Putting that interview out was a little bit immoral. And I'll give my take on all of that stuff, right? But in the interview, Famous Dex is very obviously on drugs. He can barely get a sentence out. He's slurring his words. He's wearing the sunglasses. He's got like a gas station 7-Eleven coffee cup, but we all know there's not coffee in there, right? He's not doing well in terms of, he's just not doing well, right? Now, a little bit of a background about Famous Dex is Famous Dex is, in the grand scheme of things, a very, very successful rapper. You know, Famous Dex is from Chicago, and he was popping in, I don't know about 2015, but definitely 2016, 17, 18, part of 19, you know. And he's from Chicago, right? It's always interesting because he's not mentioned in the same conversation as somebody like Lil Durk and G Herbo and Lil Reese, etc. You know, a large part of that probably has to do with the fact that he was more so with Rich the Kid and the Atlanta guys, you know. But Dex is very much a Chicago rapper from the same time as those guys. He should be in that conversation, right? And he was doing really, really well. You know, he had a lot of hit songs and, you know, besides, if I can remember correctly, there was that incident where I think he was unfortunately caught assaulting a woman. You know, that was pretty freaking terrible. You know, just don't be surprised when celebrities do questionable things, you know. But I feel like the only real repercussion from that was he didn't make XXL, because after that, he still had some of his biggest hits, like I think Japan and Pick It Up, right? I might be messing up the timeline a little bit. It's been 8 years, and Famous Dex doesn't really come to mind a lot these days, right? But while Dex did do well for several years, there is a sad reality that comes with being a drug addict, right? And the immediate things that come to mind when you're a drug addict, right? Your success will inevitably disappear because of 3 factors. The first reason, drug addicts generally have no money. They save no money. They blow through the money as fast as they get it, okay? A pint of lean is not cheap, okay? All that marijuana is not cheap. Drugs are very expensive, okay? And when you have a drug addiction, you will just never be wealthy. Of course, somebody might point at Lil Wayne or something, but by and large, you're just not going to be well off, right? The second issue with drug addiction is that when you're a drug addict and you're an obvious one, nobody trusts you, okay? People will kind of steer away from you. People don't really respect you deep down. People don't really want to talk to you the same, you know? And people definitely just don't want you messing with their money. You know, people don't really want to invest in you. It's just too risky. You know what I mean? So you can't really network because you're a drug addict, right? People just don't. People won't really feel sorry for you. They don't really want to reach out a hand because they just think it's a lost cause. You're just not right in the head, okay, when you're on drugs, unfortunately, right? And the last thing about being a drug addict is being a drug addict will absolutely diminish your work ethic, okay? Rap music is a very, very competitive genre. The fans come and go, okay? So it's up to you to keep working, keep honing in on your craft, keep putting out music, you know? If you want to make a great album that has 15 songs, you're probably going to have to record 100 and pick the best 15, right? That's like a common theme I hear, right? But when you're a drug addict, you're just not going to have a strong work ethic to do that, right? Even if you are recording all the songs aren't good. You just run into these inevitable problems, right? And because of probably some of these things that I outlined, Famous Dex's career is a fraction of what it once was, you know? Now, should Say Cheese have put out the interview? I say yes, and I'll tell you why, right? Dex has been struggling with the drug thing forever. It's like a part of his character at this point, right? I do remember at one point there was a period a few years ago where I think he went to rehab and he came out clean and normal, but as we can see by the Say Cheese interview, that was unfortunately very short-lived, right? And the reason it's not a problem is because it's just obvious he probably has no desire to be sober. You know, he just went back to doing drugs. And if you have no desire to be sober, it's not a one-off thing. As weird as this to say, like if he's gonna have a career and try to keep that going, he has to do interviews. You know, he has to do music videos. He has to do these things, right? So it wasn't like Say Cheese caught him off character, or Say Cheese caught him when he was vulnerable. Okay, this is just who he is at this point, right? When it comes to drugs and things like that, unfortunately, people don't always want what's best for them. What's best for you is not always the most obvious thing, you know? Maybe, I don't know, you have money management problems, okay? The best thing for you to do is just get a high yield savings account, put the money in there, don't touch it, right? Before you buy something, really think about it and think, oh, do I really need this? You know, you have to have these kind of conversations, you know? And resisting that urge is not always easy, right? But when you do it, you get the instant gratification. It's comforting, you know what I mean? And while you comfort it while it comforts you in the moment, you know, obviously it's not what's best for you, right? So that's why I say it all the time. People don't necessarily always want what's best for them. You know, people will do what will make them feel better quicker, you know? And I'm sure there's probably a lot of people that have tried to talk to Dex about his addiction and whatnot. It's probably futile to probably keep talking to him about it. And at this point, it is what it is. You have to hope that, you know, they can get better and they can get themselves out of their situation, but who knows? You know, now, in my opinion, I think if Dex gets sober, he could have a comeback. You know, if he gets sober, has a good work ethic. If you're sober and you're working hard and you're really taking criticism and trying to improve, the reality about life is that if you do those things, it's very, very hard to fail. You know, you hear about people failing all the time in life, right? But very rarely is the story that when people fail, the story rarely goes, I tried everything I could. I put my all into it. I took the criticism. I did everything. I constantly looked at my flaws and improved my flaws. People who do these things, they don't fail, right? Most failure stories is I tried it for a little bit, it didn't work out, or things got hard and I threw the towel in, right? So with a little bit of a work ethic and a positive attitude, it doesn't really matter what your thoughts are on spirituality or life or anything. It's just facts. You can dig yourself out of any situation, right? But yeah, I think I'm just rambling at this point. But shit, Famous Dex, good luck, my brother.